Yes, welcome back everybody to another episode of Free Kick, the official AFLW Fantasy podcast for another off-season episode. Yes, that's right, we cannot get enough of the AFLW and AFLW Fantasy. And so what we've got for you today, after this little pre-intro, is a Black Book episode. The idea being that we always talk about during the season, during the preseason, throw that name in the Black Book for next year as someone to watch out for. Well, we finally got around to recording an episode to run through all those names. So, it's been a little bit of time since we recorded. It was on the Sunday night after the AFLW Grand Final and North Melbourne's dominant performance, which means that in that time, we've actually seen a fair few news items pop up that are pretty relevant to the players we're talking about. This includes players like Anne Hatchard, who at the time was no chance of leaving, and sounds like she is well and truly off to the Gold Coast Suns. We hear a mention of Karen Peterson, some talk about the potential for different trades, different players to different clubs. So some of the information about those players is maybe a little outdated, but on the whole, we talk about a whole bunch of relevant names to put away in your Black Book for the 2026 AFLW Fantasy season. So I'm going to throw across to Mel, who was today's host, and hopefully you enjoy. Cheers.
How's it going, everyone? You're listening to Free Kick, the official AFLW Fantasy podcast. Today we've got the whole gang together to, firstly, I guess, chat about how the grand final went, but then secondly, our Black Book episode, jotting down some names, some positions, and some interesting fantasy insights at the wrap of the season so that we can bring them into season 2026 later. First of all, how's it all going? How was the grand final yesterday? Jono, as the person I sat next to. How are you?
Yeah. I'm good, thanks, Mel. Yeah, it's crazy the season's over. And we finally have confirmation of what we knew all season, which was that North Melbourne were eventually going to be the premiers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was unbelievable how powerful they are. Like, I think we were all talking before the game, the script, how it was going to be Brisbane were going to come out and kick the first goal, and it would be how quickly did North Melbourne respond and overpower them. And the answer was by quarter time.
I was sitting with some North Melbourne fans who had the goal after about 5 minutes and they hadn't kicked a goal yet. They're down by 7 points going, should we be worried? Should we be worried? And I've gone, yeah, sure, yeah, you should be really concerned. This team that hasn't lost in 2 and a bit years. And, oh, no, you're down by 7 points. 30 seconds later, Ayla Sheeran kicks the first goal of the game for North, and they're off to the races. They kicked the next 6 in a row, 6 straight. They are, a ridiculously dominant team.
Yeah. No, it is. I feel like it's just something that we know that North was going to do it, but it's still very impressive that they've gone the whole way and just gotten the job done. I don't think we've seen a team this dominant before. Even Adelaide, when they were, tearing teams apart early on in the W, I'm not sure it was like this.
And I think what we were deprived of is really the grand final the week before, because I thought, 6 weeks to go left in the season, that Melbourne were going to be the team that could push North Melbourne the most because their system is so well drilled to compete against a team like North, deprive them of space on the outside, deprive them of uncontested possession. And, Brisbane have a bunch of good players. I think if they'd been able to continue to have Sophie Conway dominate the game as she'd done in the first 10 minutes, they might have had a chance. But all it took is a few slippery moments, way too many lofted, easy to intercept, kicked inside 50s, and North are just too precise when you give them space to really ever be within much of a chance.
Yep. Will, your thoughts? I actually realised that it was you I was sitting next to, not Jono, so apologies.
Yeah. So, I was sitting next to Mel, and apparently I didn't write a mention. So, regardless, it was a very entertaining time, very loud crowd, which was fantastic. Jono was sitting, I think, 4 seats away from me, and I don't think I heard a word he said the entire game, which was great. But yeah, it was as we expected. Really great to see Ayla Sheeran get the best on ground medal. Friend of the pod, of course. Does I guess, lead itself to the trade period that's coming up and how North Melbourne managed to be the reigning premiers and just casually get a superstar in Eilish Sheeran in the trade period as well. But regardless, very deserving winners, North Melbourne, and unfortunately Brisbane couldn't quite hold up against them like Melbourne did the previous week. And as Liam alluded to, Melbourne really showed that if you deprive North of the ball, that's the best way to slow them down, and Brisbane just could not do that.
No, as it turns out, Eilish Sheeran being too intense for Sydney was somehow to the benefit of North Melbourne. I too hope that the players that the Bombers might recruit, or any team might recruit, would be considered too intense. All-time fumble from the Swans.
Get some of that Eilish intensity. As a supporter of neither team, but like secretly going for North, it was great to end the year of North's reign, or the second year rather, with the premiership. I think if they hadn't won, there was going to be this like nagging feeling in the back of my mind, like, oh, I should keep, supporting them in the games and going for North. But no, they've won now. You had a great season. Time to move over and let someone else have a go. So very happy that wrapped off a fantastic year for them. Time for some new top dogs next season, I say. And speaking of next season...
Are you suggesting that the Western Bulldogs are going to be the best team in the competition? Because that is bold.
I mean, only team to have beaten
Not
North
next season.
in the last 2 years.
Correct.
I also think that we probably would like some more fresh blood, given Bulldogs have already won a flag. I'd rather see a new team win a flag, to be completely honest.
Like Hawthorn.
Like Hawthorn. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Not like Hawthorn. Absolutely not like Hawthorn.
Geelong was the one I was thinking personally, but...
Yes. Well, for this episode, Black Book episode, first time we're doing this, we speak about a lot of it during the season. Oh, write that down for next year. We'll remember that for next season, and then we never actually wrap it all up. So this is our big wrap up. Get it down, get it out, get it on record before the season comes. Jono, what do you got for us in terms of where we're starting?
Yeah, so a few things to consider. And I think the most interesting thing is just looking at if we had everyone score exactly what they scored this season, next year with the new positions that we're expecting, what would the top 5 on each line look like? Obviously, midfielders will stay unchanged, being the highest in the competition, so we won't worry about that. But really focusing in on our defenders, our rocks, and our forwards, we are losing a lot of very interesting players to new positions. So starting with defence, we're losing Shelley Heath, who I think, ignoring Matty Gay, who only played 2 games, if we look at people who played the whole season, Shelley Heath was 5th on average and Sarah Goodwin 6th, but they've played a lot of midfield. I'm not expecting we'll see them as midfielders in this coming season. Rebecca Ott at the other end was a very fantasy relevant name who was doing a lot of things this year. I don't think we'll see her either. And then there's a large bracket of the relevant mid-prices. So we've got Elizabeth Georgiou-Stathis, Lucy McAvoy, Riley Wilcox, Paxi Paxman, and Chelsea Randall, all of whom are unlikely to be defenders next year. Certainly some potential for them to be. I know Georgiou-Stathis and McAvoy did play some time in defence, but I think majoritively I saw them playing in other positions. So, sorry, I think Liam, you want to
that's a huge loss to the
question
line.
That one?
Yeah, I 2 things. I think Lucy McAvoy in particular will definitely be right on the cusp of getting defensive status because a lot of the last portion of the season she was back there. I just did want to say that it is unlikely that we will see much of Rebecca Ott in defence because she has been delisted.
This is true. Although we are recording this before free agency, before draft, before trade. Who knows if she'll get picked up yet again? We'll find out.
That's entirely fair. But yes, I doubt we will see her as a defender or at St Kilda next season.
Yeah. But who are we going to be seeing at the top of the defender charts? Based on players we expect to have defensive status, Tilly Lucas-Rod will once again be D1. They had an average of 82.0 in 2025. But D2 and D3 is where it gets interesting. So what we're expecting is that Zippy Fish gets defensive status and Tani White also gets defensive status. So that's 2 players coming in at D2 and D3. Zippy Fish averaged 81.8 this year in her debut season. Absolutely incredible. Huge. I would say an incredible chance to be D1 next season. And Tani White was seriously impressive at Collingwood. I mean, Tani White's played defense before and never shown numbers like this. So a very, very impressive season moving back to defense. And hopefully we can see it again next year.
Yeah, seemed to be both the primary interceptor and distributor, which is quite rare. So almost playing a bit like the role that Ruby Slisher used to be a star fantasy defender in, which is quite interesting. So yeah, Tani White, very interesting one.
Yeah, definitely want to keep an eye on. And then rounded out by, I suppose, the usual suspects from this year. You've got Neve McLaughlin with a 78.9, and then Maddie Gay, if we're counting her in our top 5 from this year with only 2 games. But otherwise, I think the next on the list would fall to be Serene Watson.
Are we certain that Neve McLaughlin's not going to be listed as a forward next year, Liam?
That is, I heard, are we sure, Liam? And I went, yep, I'm going to be responding, maybe she'll have midfield status. And you bloody hit me with the haymaker. I hope to God she's not a forward. I think the question for this generally, and we don't know the answer at this stage, is will there be DPPs next year? Because that's something that exists in men's fantasy, and if you've not played, then that'll be a whole new, concept to deal with. But the possibility that there could be some of these players who have 2 positions. So I think Neve McLaughlin absolutely would be a candidate. Georgia Stathis, McAvoy would also be ones getting it. I wonder if it's possible that Shelley Heath might sneak in, given she'd line up off halfback, maybe a third of the game. It's a possibility, but I wouldn't be confident. It's just something that I'm kind of keeping in the back of my head. Like, some are definitely going to get ruled out for something like this, but I will certainly not be shocked if it's an improvement that comes into the game.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Georgia Stathis, Lucy McAvoy, those are players that definitely could be DPP. So that's going to be a big deciding factor, I think, for a lot of these players, because if it's single position only, a lot of the players on the cusp might be pushed out, but DPP might open it up a little bit more.
Yeah, really change the nature of the game. Should we continue on the assumption that we're not getting dual position players, given we don't have that information right now?
I would say so.
I think so. It's just worthwhile keeping in mind that if we're not sure, then it actually might not matter, and every one of them is kind of capped in to getting a dual position.
Yeah. Now, moving on to the rucks. Top 5 likely to stay the same. I don't think any of Mim Strom, Lucy Wales, Matilda Schultz, Ali Morford or Steph Wales are going to be in any other position. But there are some notable losses here. I think Brianna Harrington, who was the 7th highest averaging ruck in the competition, has probably spent enough time up forward. That's my suspicion. So I think with Jess Good taking the primary ruck minutes there, it'd be interesting to see that one.
And Lauren Bowler apparently strongly being targeted for the trade period. So
they also inquired about Ali Morford.
Yeah. So apparently Carlton's just thought, you know what? What if we just get every ruck?
But haven't they been doing that already?
Yeah.
So
I thought Madison Torpy was that. Yeah.
They're continuing with that strategy, which is like bold. Good on him. But they made a prelim this year, so maybe it works.
And look, if we are following in the footsteps of North Melbourne as the current, team to beat, Emma King is another one who is probably going to lose ruck status, having majoritively played forward when she did play in the side this season. Not sure she's played enough games for that to be the case, but definitely.
I was quite surprised she was listed as a ruck to begin with, to be honest.
And finally, another debutante who might be getting a new position. I expect Havana Harris is going to be losing that ruck status and getting forward status this season.
Which I think will be quite interesting, because if Lauren Bella does leave to Carlton, there's a strong chance that Havana Harris might actually play in the ruck, which if she's listed as a forward but playing in the ruck, we could have a Imogen Barnett situation where we have a very strongly scoring forward who is playing in the ruck. And I'm sure that's something you're about to talk about, Jono.
It is, because I think of all positions, the forwards is by far the most interesting. We are losing the number 1 forward from last year, Zali Goldsworthy, to the midfield. I suspect we'll also be losing Montana Ham to midfield status and Ash Woodland to midfield status as well, who were number 2 and 3. So our top 3 forwards from last season, all gone. Imogen Barnett probably being lost to ruck status, And then a few further down options. I expect Tess Craven will be mid only, given she played on the wing all year. Laura Stone, majority of you playing in the midfield, will no longer be a forward. So a lot of people no longer in our wheelhouse were playing big minutes for us this season. They're all going to be out of that position.
I got to say, it was always entertaining watching Tess Craven, the forward, taking kickouts. So,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you loved that experience, didn't you?
I did until the prelim, the final
last game of the season. Yeah.
When she didn't step out of the square. Come on, Tess. No, get that extra 3 points.
No.
But yes, there's some interesting potential players getting forward status though, John.
There are. And having a look at the players that might be getting forward status, I think one stands high above the rest. If Anne Hatchard gets forward status, I think they are immediately going to be our F1. Averaged 81 this year, which is higher than anyone else on our list left in the forward line. And Anne Hatchard's averaged over 100 before. So this could be a very, very interesting one. And I suppose for anyone who plays the fantasy game and supports the Crows, you're getting a little reward for having watched Anne Hatchard play forward and really struggle to cover for that lack of key forwards this season.
She will be interesting, and with a new coach. At time of recording, it sounds like it will be the current, or the number one candidate is the current midfield coach at Brisbane. And we know how well that went the last time someone was poached from that exact position into a head coaching role, because that was Dan Webster. So it'll be fascinating to see what comes of Adelaide next season if Anne Hatchard, Jono, I think you used both iterations in one sentence.
I wanted to cover my bases, yeah.
He's given that midfield role. Hatchard he's given a position in the midfield next season, because that's definitely where she's going to score better.
I think the next few on our list are regular forwards from last season. Courtney Hodder, Chloe Malloy, and Bonnie Toogood, I'm expecting will all hold their forward status. But Ronnie, her own Fitzpatrick, is likely to come in as the default F5 this season, having averaged 71.3 as a midfielder. Basically from rookie price as well. So that will be a very different looking top five from 2025 to 2026, that's for sure.
There is one player that should be in here, though, on final form, or on the form across like the final month of the season.
Well,
and
that's
doubt. Marley Challenge.
Marley Challenge.
It is Marley Challenge. Superstar.
Yeah.
First goal scorer in the grand final. Charlie Mullins played a very, very good second half of the year. I think could be a real bargain pick next year, as you say, Liam.
Well, I think we will get to Charlie Mullins a little bit later, who the only reason they're not here is because of a concussion game, which I think is going to be interesting to talk about. But that is likely the top fives we're seeing next season. But I suppose that's only really looking at the top of the line and people who are losing particularly interesting statuses. What I think is also interesting is if we're not just looking at the top couple, but people who could make the jump up there or people who are starting a little bit lower, who else are we expecting to get new fantasy positions? So one that I think just coming out of the grand final, a little bit interesting, we saw Isla Sheeran, who's been listed as a midfielder all year, played in defence the majority of the season, and then has come straight back into the midfield in that grand final. Where are we expecting her to be listed as a fantasy player next season?
Yeah, they were fantastic in that grand final, 129. If that's the sort of stuff they're putting up as a defender, that'd be amazing. Worth noting that Mia King will probably come straight back in. So Miss Fix-It, as they've named her down at North Melbourne, might end up back as a defender. But even if they're playing as a defender, averaging 71, that's still pretty fantastic. It is worth also noting just quickly that we are purely speculating about these positional changes. We in no way know anything about what will be happening next year, but going on what we've seen in the games.
Yeah. No, it's a good exclaimer. But I guess the thing there is, exactly. But honestly, I feel like Sheeran is one of those players where playing as a defender at Richmond compared to playing in the midfield, or even either at North as well, they seem to score pretty well wherever they play. I think this is a player that I'm pretty strongly going to consider over this offseason. I'm liking them for next season to be in my side.
So you've got Zippy Fish, who's expensive, second most expensive defender. You got Matty
Yeah.
Gay, who's going to be a top 5 most expensive defender. And you're picking Ailey Shearer and price over 70. It's a damn expensive defence.
Yep.
How are we
Yep.
going to afford that? So just a quick exclaimer for everyone's team. We are playing with fake money here.
Yeah, we got to use fake words when speaking about fake money. So this is important stuff here.
Incredible.
Another one we were talking about. I'm not sure if they've done enough this season, but Amy Gaylor keeps bouncing between midfield and defense. The last 3 games I was looking at, almost purely defense. Liam, have they done enough to get defensive status as a Bombers supporter?
I think it's just going to be too much midfield time, even if we do have DPP. I think the player that I'm most interested in for potentially getting defender status is Chloe Adams, who signed an contract extension, played a bunch in defence during the year, but then also got some time in the midfield in the back half of the season. Scores extremely consistently in the 50s and 60s, but has elite scoring pedigree as a junior. So if I'm thinking a Bombers defender, I think Chloe Adams, again, it's super borderline, but could absolutely get that defender status.
Definitely an interesting one to keep an eye on there. Mel, other side of things, we're looking at our forward lines. Our top forwards have all been cut off, and I think the ceiling that our forwards need to reach is much, much lower. We've talked about Anne Hatchard and Ronnie Fitzpatrick getting forward status. Is there anyone else that you're excited to look at next season?
Yeah, well, I reckon the next highest lock for getting the forward status has to be Hayley Miller, who has arguably been playing as a forward for a while already, but particularly exciting, coming in at 65.3 average after being listed as a midfielder, where she really didn't get any fantasy love because at that price, you're just a mid-price madness midfielder, but move that over to the forward line on top of Freo continuing to get better. I think that she is going to be an exciting forward option, as well as, Anya Tai coming back. But Hayley Miller herself has really proven herself in the forward line.
I like that you say that this is a lock because it probably should have been a lock like 2 seasons ago.
Therefore, it's not a
started
lock.
playing almost permanently forward, and it still hasn't happened.
At least last season they had a bunch of injuries to mids, and this season there's just no excuse. Yeah, it has to happen because I don't think she played a minute there that I saw. But I don't know. Hopefully, with an easier fixture next year, having not made finals this year, could be a good year for Hayley Miller. So a good one to keep an eye on. Who else am I looking at? I feel like there's a bunch of rookies that started in different positions in the game. But Havana Harris as a debutante moving forward. Lucia Painter was listed as a midfielder as well. Sophie Mackay was listed as a midfielder. I think all of those 3 really, really interest me, particularly Mackay, because I think their consistency towards the end of the season, seriously impressive. If Carlton get away with a semi-decent fixture, I think that's someone who could really pop next season.
Particularly if they lose midfielders too. I wonder if Mads Gearan, after a tough time actually making it back into the squad, getting dropped, playing with a pretty terrible role for the first 2/3 of the year, sticks at Carlton. And that does actually open up a bit of midfield time. Keely Shearer, was someone who also spent less time in the midfield in the back end of the season. I wonder if she's slated for more of a forward role. I think Sophie Mackay is someone who I'm definitely keen on. I wonder, Lucia Painter is someone I'm certainly interested in, but the one I'm most interested in is Havana Harris. I think she has the ability to be a Matilda Schultz type scorer, but has better hands. Like, I think anyone that owned Matilda Schultz in the back end of the season knows that she has some games where she clunks everything and other games where I swear every single finger on her hand must be broken because they just bounce off all the time. I think that's the type of scorer that Havana Harris could be if she's playing in the ruck. And so that is a name that I am well and truly keeping my eye on.
Yeah, I think the Carlton midfield is going to be super interesting and who goes in and out of that, because they've also been linked with Claudia Whitford in the trade period, a few other players. One who could get forward status and at the moment doesn't look like a great option is Keely Skepper. Seems to be a bit on the outer, but a few seasons ago was a really good rookie forward pick, averaged somewhere in the mid-60s, I believe. If she is a player that leaves Carlton and ends up somewhere else where there might be midfield options, could be a bargain option, but will entirely depend on leaving Carlton, let's be honest.
Interesting.
No, it's an interesting one. Yeah. I feel like Carlton's just got name after name, really, because I'm also looking at Bree Harrington, who, if not for like 0.2 of an average difference, would have been in our top 5 list. I think aside from one pretty nasty 27 against Sydney, was a pretty reliable scorer all season. Started the year with 88, 87, 84. I mean, that's what you want from your premiums, right? Is consistent scoring.
Yeah.
I think Harrington could be an option next season to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, and then there's a few other players who have always been sort of on that annoying cusp of being forward status listed. Jenna Bruton, who has been playing mostly off half forward for North, scoring reasonably well. Michaela Cairns, an interesting one, has requested a trade to the Bulldogs. So if she gets forward status and then a midfield spot at the Dogs, could be a good chance to improve on her 65.8 average from last season. So that would be a really interesting one. Could even just be a good bargain one if she does just keep midfield
I love
status, but forward would be great.
I love the threefold speculation here. If she's traded and if she gets forward status and if she increases that average, she could be good. This is like next level watch and wait.
Put it this way. If Michaela Can averages 125, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
That's so
But there's
true.
a lot that
That's
has
so
to happen
true.
for that to happen. I think all of these players would be fantastic if they averaged over 100.
Well,
I
Michaela
think
Can.
that's it.
Oh, I was going to say your old joke. Well, Michaela can and Michaela will.
I really hope so. But yes,
I just
Sorry,
came.
Lee.
Sorry, I'm going to steer it away from a joke that we've heard only maybe half a dozen times before, and say that I just came to a realization about the Carlton midfield. Sounds like they're interested in Brooke Boylo,
yes,
who-
that was the other name I was thinking of.
who might be coming across to get midfield time. I think that would almost certainly spell the end for Mads Gearan if Boylo were to come across.
And
But I
Keely
do know.
Skipper.
I Gilly Skipper, I would be confident saying is gone already, and I would also think that Lila Keck is probably looking for other opportunities too. So yeah, I'm certainly. It's certainly going to be a fascinating team to watch. I also think that they are, in my opinion, a huge potential regression candidate. Carlton.
I just don't understand where all these midfielders are going to play because they're going to just have a full team of rucks. So
Well, they're going to have a full team of midfielders and rucks, and then possibly the oldest defence in the competition: Gav Pound, Darcy Vesio, Harriet Cordner, and then
Karen-
no
Peterson, if she comes
depth,
back.
and then no depth. It's Maddie Hendry. You are the youngest player in the Carlton forward line by about 7 years.
Carlton backline even.
Backline, yeah, that would be even better.
What else have we got? I think another player I've been keeping an eye on is some of the Melbourne forwards. So we've heard rumours that Eden Zanker is leaving. And at the moment, Riley Wotherspoon and Maggie Marnie have been listed as midfielders in 2025. I suspect they're both getting forward status and they could both be playing some pretty prominent roles, particularly after some seriously impressive finals performances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there
Lock
anyone
it
else
in.
that we're thinking might be getting a new fantasy position worth talking about here? Or should we move on to some of our, players returning that we haven't seen in a while?
Let's go to returning players.
Yeah, there's a
Two
lot,
done with
lot
this one.
coming in here.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mel, why don't you kick us off? There's a bunch of players returning from injury, players that have barely played this season or players we haven't seen at all. Who are you most excited for next season?
Oh, who am I most excited for? I reckon I'm quite excited to see Michaela Breed come back. I think she was someone I was really excited about in this preseason, coming in after a ripper season before that. And unfortunately didn't get to see anything from her this year. But I reckon she will be coming in at a nice mid-price and excited to see what the young gun can bring for another season.
Yeah, Collingwood's midfield is super interesting because they've got Matea Breed coming back, as you said, Mel. They've also got Bree Davey who didn't play a game. So you'd expect the skipper to walk back into that midfield. So that's two very handy recruits to come into a midfield that ran through a lot of players this year. Ex-skipper, sorry, correct. Former skipper. Come because they've currently got the current skipper, Ruby Slisher, playing through that midfield as well. You've also got Britt Benici, who had arguably one of her best seasons. And then you've got a number of other players who played reasonably well through the midfield at times, like Carly Ramos. Even Lily Rose Williamson at times looked like a pretty decent addition to that midfield.
And Ash Centra just hanging out.
I was about to say, there's also this other casual player called Ash Centra, who you may have heard of, and they'll have another high draft pick this year as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they all fit in. You'd expect Brie Davey to walk back into that midfield, but yeah, it'll be quite an interesting one to see how they fit all of those players in.
Well, speaking of trying to fit players in, Daisy Darcy going back to halfback to team up with Neve McLaughlin is the player that I'm most keen to see. She is going to be the value defender if saner heads prevail, and she's given a similar role that she'd had in the past, where she is comfortably the best kick on a team filled with pretty poor ones. And without, if Neve McLaughlin's up the ground, there's no one kicking the ball out of that halfback that I am at all concerned by. So Dizzy Darcy is the player that I'm most keen to see come back from an ACL injury that she did at the back end of last year, so 2024.
We're talking Neve McLaughlin playing up the field in what position there?
That would be the midfield. That would be the midfield where she's playing up the ground.
I was going to say, Liam, would you consider Daisy Darcy star small forward?
I would consider stabbing myself through my eyeballs if I have to watch Daisy Darcy play as a forward pocket. That would be such a ridiculous waste. I hope Erin Phillips holds that coaching staff to a higher standard than to play Dizzy Darcy out of the forward pocket.
Yeah, there's hope that Daisy Darcy will be able to resume that midfield role, but there's also a few other midfielders that are really interesting to look at. Elise Parker, long been a favourite of the podcast, has basically single-handedly removed the number one forward from the game. Her injury was what led to Zali Goldsworthy becoming such a prominent midfield option for the Giants this season. So she'll likely come in underpriced. Liv Purcell was absolutely tearing it up before her ACL injury as well. So that's going to be quite an interesting one to see how she, A, returns, and B, where she'll be priced at. But yeah, there's a few interesting options that are coming back from ACLs. There's a St Kilda player that I'm very interested coming back from an ACL that we have also previously talked to on this podcast, Emily Fiedler. We know that St Kilda, their ruck situation is not the best, and they were probably relying on Fiedler coming on this year, and then the ACL injury came at an inappropriate time. Liam, do you have any thoughts on St Kilda?
No, I'm silent on St Kilda. No, I was just gonna say, I love the deep cut and reminding our listeners that we did in fact interview Emily Fiedler, which in what I'm almost certain is our least listened to episode in podcast history, which is where we reviewed the supplemental draft and did interviews with three of the players who were drafted, who also included, by the way, Ruby Tripodi.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, two-time premiership player, Ruby Tripodi.
Two-time premiership inside midfielder, Ruby Tripodi, out of Williamstown VFLW. Another player that I just have to say is Maddie Gay. Obviously, we've already mentioned her, but she was basically had a mostly torn ACL for this season, played only 2 games, or 3 games. I can't remember how many it was, but I think that she'll be absolutely a player to watch for.
Well, sticking with Essendon, Millie Radford was really tearing it up at the back end of the season prior, 2024, before she hurt herself this preseason. But I think she's one that could come in back into the midfield at the Bombers with some potential in front of her. What do you think about that one? How does it fit in your mix, Lam?
If she's given a wing role, I think it's possible. I suspect, though, with midfield status, it will be tough to try and pick her. If there's a deep draft league, then, or if there is a draft league, it's a name that you could probably take a stab on late. But I just don't know if a midfielder, if she's going to be the right position to be able to get the benefit of that scoring boost.
It's not a hand up from Will. Good.
No. Okay.
Another player that I think I'm pretty keen from is Hannah Munyard, because she came out of the blocks on fire this season. I think she had a 64 in like 2/3 of game time. She was absolutely crushing it. And then broke her ankle looked extremely painful as well. Nearly made a recovery in time for finals, just fell short at the last moment. So I think she's going to get a full preseason in. I think that is another player who could, if they just show what they showed in that first game, I think would be a fascinating forward to be picking.
Yeah, a lot of really good options in the returning from injury section.
Yeah.
Can we talk about, I think, another massive option for me in defence and maybe another to add to a list of 4 or 5 that I'm already picking for next year? Chantel Edmondson. I would say that Geelong's biggest deficiency this season came in the way they were able to move the ball out of defence and their inconsistency on that front, as well as probably being able to really get the ball through the goals from their small forwards. Chantel Edmondson has an entire award named in her honour when we do our AFL, a memorial award named in her honour for her ability to get free points for kick-ins. I suspect she will immediately become in and be a hugely vital player to any potential Geelong revival next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And on crucial defenders, this is the first season that we have played AFLW Fantasy that I have not been able to select Karen Peterson. And quite frankly, it's a tragedy. And I can't wait until they return. I really hope they do.
Yes.
I'm happy for her and her family, but geez.
And picking Karen Peterson has always worked out well for you.
I feel like that's the final spot in your backline, Jono. Like, your backline's sorted.
Yeah, sorted.
That's how
5
Jono's
for
going to
5.
afford his backline. 4 top liners and Karen Peterson.
Yeah. I mean, you got to pick a cheap player somewhere, right?
I think, Mel, you have also picked Karen Peterson about 4 times across different seasons, and I don't know if it's worked yet.
It's not. I'm staying away from Carlton defenders going forward, I believe.
Another couple of players who have also been returning from pregnancy, Bess Keeney, who I think was sorely missed by the Bombers this season, and Haneen Zrika, who at the Giants also missed the entire season. I think midfielders from memory. I'm not sure about Zrika, but I think she was a midfielder when she was last in the game. Oh, no,
Keeney
forward this
definitely.
season.
Keeney definitely was a midfielder,
Yeah.
though, playing on a wing.
Yeah. Any interest there? If we've got a little bit more, more money to be made. Like this year, I feel like it was a real focus on premiums, but I feel like we could have a bit of a different structure this year. Who knows?
Maybe Keedy. But I think that both might just struggle for ceiling. In terms of players with the ceiling, like we've obviously got some players who have injury impacted averages. I'd say Ash Richards isn't on the run sheet list, but she is high in my mind coming off an injury last year. But Piper Window is the one that I think I'm most interested in. I think Ash Woodland's time in the midfield was massively increased because Piper Window couldn't play for most of the year.
Yeah. So I guess this section here, injury impacted players, the reason Ash Richards isn't on this list is because there was a 98 in their final game. So I'm not sure you can say that was, what was she going to score in that last 2 minutes that really held her back?
140.
Yeah. But Piper Window with that 7 is going to come in incredibly underpriced. And I imagine walk straight back into that Port Adelaide midfield. Is this a player that we can get over the trauma for and just start now to sides?
Yeah, no, I didn't have her, so I'm trauma free.
I mean, likely to be a midfielder, do we reckon? Did she play enough games?
I cannot speak on this one. I do not know the rhyme or reason of Champion Data's position, so I can't say with any certainty. But
did she play any games in the Sandful that would
Sandful W? No, but I do think she played as a midfielder in her Boxing Day footy game with her partner's family. So I think that means she'll be a midfielder.
Talia Gillard, ruck status confirmed.
Oh, that is another deep cut because that's something we complained about 2 years ago.
Yeah, there seems to be quite a few forward options though that will be definitely forwards. I think based on where they've played that have had injury issues. We've talked a bit about Charlie Mullins already, but a couple of previously very strong scorers. Alice O'Loughlin, who spent a lot of the year out with a lacerated liver,
Lacerated liver.
Lacerated liver. And Caitlin Gould, who was a previously very consistent scorer who had a broken arm as well. Do any of them take your fancy?
Caitlin Gould for sure.
Yeah.
Having a 0 in a game is obviously going to drop your average massively, but I think she came back with a pretty low score as well.
Yes.
I think in her second to last game, it was a 39 before she started scoring a little bit better and showing us, exactly what kind of a fantastic player she is. So I think that's going to be pretty severely underpriced as far as forward options go.
Yeah, very
We'll be
keen on
priced
Caitlin
at
Gould.
53. We'll be priced at 53. So absolutely. Came into the season over 800, or basically a 900K. So yeah, she is well and truly on the radar. And maybe the player that I can bring in so that I can afford, 17 defenders.
Definitely. In terms of another player who's going to be very underpriced, already mentioned previously, but Claudia Whitford previously averaged 90 as a midfielder at the Suns, had hamstring issues to start the year, concussion at the end of the year. Pretty sure played, I think it was 5 games for an average of 59. Definitely a player that can really push towards that sort of second tier premium. I think the biggest issue for Claudia Whitford is the linkage to Carlton, to be honest.
Oh,
I would be shocked. I would be shocked if she went to Carlton. I think that would be a mistake if she wants to actually get game time and to play for a coach that is consistent with the players in their midfield. Because I don't.
The other team she's been linked to is Essendon, Liam.
That one? I would be ecstatic with that opportunity. I would also say the same for Mads Gearan, given we were talking about her earlier potentially not being at Carlton anymore. Both of those being options for Essendon would be ideal because I think both of them bring a clearance winning capability that we currently lack.
Yeah, I think Whitford, the real shame there is that she's only played the 5 games, and I'm pretty sure it's 6 to make sure that you lock in your average from this year. So I think she's going to be priced at what her previous season's average minus the 5%. Is that right? I think that's how the maths works. So not quite as heavily discounted as I would love her to have been because, hell of a player when she gets going. Another one, it's probably a little unfair to put them on the list, but I had to have a Hawthorn player here. Emily Bates, having done her shoulder, missed significant portions of the season.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think coming back in, I don't think she reached the heights that we've seen from her in the past at any stage throughout the year.
It's a deep cut sort of recording, so Bates M1.
Yeah, Bates M1. I love it.
That's a deep cut from our first season.
Wow.
That one's for the long-time listeners.
I think that'll be an option there. Chelsea Randall is another who I think keeps getting thrown around as the misfixer, but we've got a new coach coming in. At some point, surely this new coach is going to give Randall, as the older player in the team, a bit more of a consistent role to settle into. And I think that can only be good news for Chelsea.
Which role?
That's the question.
Good question.
Yes.
I suspect they're going to be up forward still, but as long as they've got other players around that are healthy as well. Because I think part of the issue this year, aside from the concussion and all that, was when they were forward, it was often solo. They didn't have anyone alongside them to sort of take...
Except Dan Hatchard.
Well, yeah, but Hatchard sort of still flicks between. So I think with Caitlin Gould in the side taking the best defender, I think Randall could be an option again. I mean, we saw in that game against the Lions, she still got that 103 in her. That was kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, Randall just keeps pushing through the seasons.
Can I throw a name in there that not on the run sheet and absolutely has an injury impacted average, but still played almost every game of the season? It is Jazz Fleming.
Jazz Fleming is a great shout. A great shout.
What are you doing? Why did you not bring up Jazz Fleming?
Because Jazz Fleming, I'm going to say it now, Jono. Maybe you need to cover your ears. Jazz Fleming did not play particularly well this year. Her kicking was dreadful. But we know that she has talent. And she has 100 in her career, but it was against Melbourne in the back half of last season where she finished the season with a couple of scores over 80 in her last 4. Going to be coming into this season well underpriced, next season well underpriced, I think, on what her capabilities would or ought to be. And she kind of came in, she got that injury in game 1 of the season against Brisbane, missed 3, but never really looked fully fit, in my opinion. Still managed to string together, a couple of 80s in a row and then a couple of 90s in a row. I think that's what she is as a scorer long term.
Yeah, I think she's got even a higher potential than that. I think she came back very quickly because at that point of the season, Hawthorn players were falling left, right and centre. So I think she came in a little underdone because we needed her. And then ending the season, I don't know if you guys watched that final against Carlton, but she was playing out of the goal square, which we're not doing unless she's playing severely impacted. And I suspect that was happening across a number of the last games of the season, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. So I'm really hoping that, a bit of a fresh period off, time to recover. I'm hoping she'll be good to go next year. And I can see a 90 average. It's just tough to pick in the midfield. That's the only question that I have there.
But priced at a 65,
priced at a 65 90. Could be very tempting. Yeah. If the Hawks get a decent fixture in those first few games, I'll be pretty interested. Yeah. Another player, which I guess it's another deep cut in a sense. It's Gabby Seymour. Is this a player that we're expecting to come back into the midfield or some sort of ruck role again? Or do we think that's just done and playing off half back is more likely the future? Because if that's the case, I don't think I'm that interested.
I think it's
new coach though. And Poppy Kelly wasn't amazing this past year. So it's a possibility. It's just, I would call it, I would need like triple source confirmation of it happening to believe it. Yeah.
No, fair enough.
Agree.
Well, I guess here we've got next section and our final section, which we haven't really filled out too much on our run sheet, but players ready to fire next season that we're keeping our eye on. Liam, I'm going to start with you because you've thrown out Ash Richards before. I think this is the section that she absolutely deserves to sit in.
It was an injury-impacted score. She was going to score 140 in those final 10 minutes when she broke her ankle. Showed a speed and a class that we've not really seen much of in St Kilda's midfield. Like Tiana Smith is bash and crash and can generate a great clearance, but plays in a similar mould to Jamie Lambert, who's been the other good midfielder. With the way that Ash Richards looked in that final 3 games of the season, high tackling, beautiful running on the outside, a decent kick, great link if she's rolling around on the half-forward line. And I think it was one of the few good decisions that Nick Del Santo made across the year. So I do wonder if, I really hope that it's the game plan that St Kilda were playing before the final month of the year that is rolled out again. Because if it is, Ash Richards goes from like someone who will be priced in the 60s, high 60s, who I think can average 90. And even if that's a midfielder, she's a potential to pick.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think she was fantastic in those last few games. If we're seeing anything like that, and should probably remain as a forward, I think that could immediately throw up potential top 5 calculations there. Will, who are you looking at?
This is a player who every time it comes up, always, I find it really hard to say it's a breakout player because they won the Rising Star. But Hannah Ewings is such a talented player. Clearly came into this season underdone. Only played 3 games. Scored a 50 in round 1 and then didn't play again till round 6. I'm really hoping that a full preseason will give Hannah Ewings the best opportunity to thrive at an Adelaide team that probably needs a bit of a spark. I think they've probably need to go through a bit of a transition. With Brooke Boylo potentially moving over to Carlton, there is that sort of half-forward midfield spot available, which Hannah Ewings would be perfect to fit in. And she's going to be priced really, really cheap, only averaging, I think it was high 30s. So even with 3 games, that's not going to be a very expensive player that we could put in our forward line. This year wasn't the year for it, and I think we probably came into this season knowing that, but I'm really hoping that next year will be Hannah Ewing's year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that shout. Players ready to fire. I feel like this is probably a bit of a cheat code, number 1 draft from last season, but I feel like we're getting Ash Centra as a forward, having played forward for the majority of this season, but I suspect they're moving into the midfield next season. I just feel like in that mix there, it's the X factor that they're missing, and Ash Centra is just so clean with the ball in hand. She looks like she has so much time. I'm really excited to see what she can do. And I think we could have, as a forward, a player who's getting those, 80, 100 scores that we saw briefly in the middle of the season. That would be pretty exciting to watch. I think she's going to be first watch on my list when we get to that Collingwood episode. It's just seeing where she's training earlier in the year.
Yeah. That'll be a great one.
Mel, who are you looking at?
It's hard to say. I kind of struggled with this one. The player that I had in the back of my mind, mostly because I picked them for like the back 3 score little challenge we did, was Emily Peace. I feel like she's really hit a role at the back end of the season, getting strong in the kickouts. Is Liam trying to foresee the future, or do you have a headache? What are you doing?
What do you think?
Liam's thinking about GWS and
I think
causing
you're seeing the future and you're like, yes, breakout coming for Emily Peace. No, I think, it is a bit odd putting it into her 6th season that the breakout is coming, but I'm feeling good things about Emily Peace coming next season. I'm liking the role. I'm liking the athleticism.
The good news is Emily Peace has never in the past haunted Liam, so.
Yeah. I have some thoughts on this. I would say,
shocking.
Mel, I agree, because there's a chance that Cambridge McCormick may leave for Carlton. And that means that...
Why is
everyone's going to Carlton? Carlton are having 2
I think Carlton
squads, clearly.
I think Carlton have just asked everyone. It sounds like it's a remote possibility. But if Cambridge McCormick were to leave, GWS should fire themselves into the sun. And then separately, it would be a massive boon for Peace, because that takes away the only other scorer. And I also would struggle to see GWS winning a game next year.
I mean, they might be getting Tilly Lucas-Rod instead, so maybe that would...
That's true. Because if TLR does go there, I wonder if Peace might actually lose some of her kick-ins. It'll be interesting to see on that front. But
although Lucas-Rod does love a switch. So that could be beneficial for both of them.
Yeah, you might have a very similar partnership to Lucas-Rod and the superstar
Jenna Richardson. Yeah, Tilly Lucas-Rod might love a switch, but GWS's game plan sure doesn't. So that will be a fascinating battle to watch play out.
Yeah,
watch and wait.
Well, hold on. Whilst we're leaning into the GWS game plan, Sarah Howley out on a wing, if they continue that run and carry, Sarah Howley is exactly the type of player that benefits, and I think is probably the only player on their side that I'm like, oh yeah, that really suits how they play, is this style. So I think they will be a big beneficiary of it next season. So that's one I'd be excited to watch.
That is the most scathing criticism. It's the only player that I go, oh yes, that suits the way they play.
Yeah, the rest of them, I feel like they're better at the kick mark game. I don't think they should be moving it fast.
Cambridge McCormick is someone who definitely benefits, because she's an incredible runner for her size, and that kind of shows. But that is incredible. I'm completely on board with the sentiment that you're going with.
That was a very Liam-like statement to just go straight for the jugular.
Just straight in. Yeah. Another, which I brought up just before we started recording, I don't know where she plays, because with Emily Bates back into the side, there's a lot of competition for spots at the Hawks midfield. So I expect Bates, West, Fleming are the trio there. But Daisy Flockhart in those last few games really, really showed something. And I think with a full season, another preseason, and she did come in a little underdone into the Hawks side. I think she was trying to recover from injury from the preseason, so she only got into the side round 8, but she went from strength to strength. I can see her averaging a good 60-something, probably going to be listed as a midfielder, which is a bit tough, but if for whatever reason she is listed as a forward, I'm very, very closely watching that. So that's one I'm keeping an eye on there.
Nice.
Is there anyone else that you guys see as a breakout candidate for next season?
Tyler Gillard averaged 68, I think, in the final 5 to 6 games of the season. Will be priced in the 40s. Took a couple of extra kickouts, elite chase down tackles in the finals, had a 60 and a 70 in the semi and the prelim. Just a name to keep an eye on. Will come in underpriced. Could be another, let's continue the run of picking these, key size defenders who have elite athletic traits to kind of boost their scoring.
That's a fair
So
shout.
many
They should
players
have
to
a harder
watch.
fixture next year. Yeah. I think that's might do us for this episode. Mel, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, well, that might be us for the season as well. But stay tuned because we will be putting out a little bit more content between now and the start of the next preseason. No commitments on what and when, but we'll let you know what we put out. The draft is looking interesting. The trade period's looking interesting. Let us know if there's a piece of content that you'd particularly like to hear from us from. And if not, we'll chat to you all later. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.